You're watching Moments with Jill Walker. Today I'm talking about disappointments. If we live on this earth, we will have disappointments. Even the Christian will face disappointments. But what makes a difference is how the Christian reacts and how the unbeliever reacts. You see, what is inside of you will come out of you when you're going through trials and tests and disappointments. What does the Bible say about this subject? Well, before I go on, I must tell you, I personally have had disappointments in my life. And sometimes I've had to pray and ask God to forgive me for my attitude. I'm sure you have too. And then I've also watched people go through disappointments. And sometimes they stood out like a shining star. And other ones have needed a lot of prayer because they just find it hard to cope with the disappointments they are facing. You see, we're still human and we always need God's help. Don't ever be ashamed of how you're reacting, but just ask God to give you the strength to get through every disappointment and to help you be strong. Remember, it says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Well, when I face disappointments, there's some things I will do. And then after I've done everything I know how to do, I have to leave the rest with God. So let me give you an example of some verses that maybe you have also done when you're facing disappointments. You see, sometimes when we face disappointments, we assume the devil's trying to attack us and we just want to react back. And that's okay to do that because it says in Matthew 18:18, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. So we can bind whatever is attacking our body or our circumstances. But when we've done all we can do, it goes on to say in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 13, having done all, stand. That's right. We don't turn our back on God. We don't want to get bitter and mean and angry with God. We must trust in the Lord, like it talks about in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, to trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. That's right. And let me remind you and myself that all things will work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. What is his purpose? It clearly tells us in Jeremiah 29:11, for the plans that I have for you are for good and not for evil, to give you an expected end. You see, I just counseled somebody recently who's going through a situation where they may be losing a loved one, someone dear to their heart, someone so dear to their heart, they're just in shock that this person may pass away and be promoted to heaven. For that person, they're better off in heaven. But for those left behind, there's going to be a void, there'll be sorrow, there'll be grief, and they'll have to get through it with all of God's help and many people's prayers. But I told that one, I said, you know how you react. Some of your family members will be watching, and they are going to decide by how you react whether they will be bitter to God or not. You see, when we go through disappointments, there's others that are watching. I must admit, even publicly, I have failed sometimes in the way I've reacted, and I've had to repent. And I'm sure if you're being honest, you have too. But we can continue to draw closer to God and mature in the Lord and ask him to give us the wisdom, the peace, the strength, and the help that we need so we can stand strong like it talks about in Ephesians chapter 6. And we can be that example, not only to the Christians around us, but also to the lost people in the world, and let them see the love of God and the strength of God shining through us when we go through trials, tests, and disappointments. You've been watching Moments with Jill Walker. God bless you today.